From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One ball, corner pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hutchavandi
And Corey Clark.
I'm going back to my roots another day.
Wake up! What is up? It is Wake Up Warchant. It is presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill in Tallahassee, Florida. cptallybar.com, or just pull out that phone of yours and scan the QR code if you're watching us on YouTube or listening on a device where you have your phone available to where you can scan the QR code. You'll go right to the website and check out their daily specials. And every day is special at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Grab some lunch, shoot some pool, throw some darts, make some memories over at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Again, cptallybar.com. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source. Promo code Warchant30. Thumbs up listening to us on YouTube. 5-star rating and review, please. Please. If you're on an Apple iOS device. Corey Clark went to Howser Stadium on Sunday. Nearly 10 hours of baseball on a doubleheader. Florida State gets a series win in baseball and softball. We'll have plenty to talk about on that, as well as our Zaxby's Indescribably Good Player of the Week picks and some recruiting breakdowns with Michael Langston. But, Corey, did you save anything as a souvenir from the 17-inning marathon that wrapped things up on Sunday? Shout out Jaime Ferrer.
Not only was it a marathon, Aslan, it was a historical night. It was an NCAA record, which was wonderful to sit through. It was the most combined strikeouts in an NCAA Division I college baseball game ever. Well,
imagine how long it would have been. Imagine how long the game would have been if they didn't always strike out, right?
Right, sure. I mean, I'm trying to think of I don't know how long college baseball has been around, but I was there. I was there for the first game too, but the second game, I mean, we saw history. In the press box, I basically said, look, guys, this is like when my mom and dad were at Hank Aaron's 715th home run. We just saw history. We saw 54 strikeouts in one college baseball game. That's incredible. Florida State struck out 28 times as a team, and then they struck out NC State 26 times. And NC State has a real offense. Not that Florida State doesn't, but Florida State's prone to strikeouts. NC State's a good offense, but Florida State has some pitchers, man, and they dealt. And shout out while we're on it real quick, shout out to Corner Pocket, because as we're recording this, I got out of that stadium. I'll be honest, Aslan, I thought I'd get out of there like 6:15, 6 o'clock at the latest.
Nope.
I got out of there at 10. There's not a lot of places open in Tallahassee after 10 that you can go get a meal. Certainly places that are good, like good food. I got myself a smokehouse chicken wrap from Corner Pocket at 10:45, 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock at night, I'm chowing down on a smokehouse chicken wrap. So that's the beauty of Corner Pocket. And, that game was it was unbelievable. I still can't quite believe, it's not.
We'll get to it later. We'll get to it later. Save just
okay. All right. Sorry. I just can't believe that I was there for that.
I can't believe you did it either. It's amazing. But, yeah, we're back to our roots here. Recording late. We're up with you on a Monday morning, so shout out,
right.
everybody.
It's Monday morning when we're recording this, actually.
Yeah, we used to do this all the time, but I don't know what happened. I got old in a hurry where I was like, I don't want to do this any longer. I think all the losing might have kind of accumulated and hurt my psyche. But in any event, let's talk about some football. On Sunday, good. Speaking about psyche, good psychological management by Mike Norvell, giving his guys 11 days off for the spring break holiday. He said the reason they basically schedule it so is because they wanted to avoid playing the spring game or practicing during the Easter weekend. So they did this whole start it kind of a little bit earlier and then still have the spring break built in. But nobody wants to go back to work after spring break. I don't. But what better way than giving your guys an all-new lair to hang out in, get geared up as they get ready for games and practices. The new locker room looks absolutely stunning. And he let the guys in on Sunday evening as they started filing back to campus. I think that was a pretty cool move. Like, all right, you guys are back, but check out what – I know you guys don't want to be back yet. You'd rather be doing some keg stands, things of that nature. But here you go, man. Look at this. And it looks sharp. I mean, I'm no Tom Silva from this old house, my guy. Shout out Boston.
Right,
but
sure.
It looks incredible. It's futuristic. Everything is like white and shiny and sparkling, and it looks really nice, man. So shout out to all the donors that make this stuff happen. Maybe we're not as poor as we think we are, or we're some reason we tell ourselves we are. But also, by the same token, everything, the positive outweighs what I'm about to say, so take it with a grain of salt. Everybody don't get upset. But I would imagine that the $5 million or whatever they spent in 2014 coming off the national title game has to probably be the worst spending of $5 million in the program's history, because the locker room is totally gutted and upheaved and uphauled and redone. Not even 8 full years after it was, maybe 8 years now to the day. So that's a bummer, but it looks great now. Did you see it, Corey? What do you think about it? Do you think Brady's going to feel at home in there?
I think so. I haven't shown it to him yet, but again, he's not quite a recruitable athlete yet. But when he's ready to go, that locker room will certainly be appealing. Again, it comes down to NIL money with Brady. You know that. That's all we're really, as a family, that's all we're really focusing on. But the locker room is nice, and yeah, man, that is when you see that kind of stuff, you're like, yeah, it's look, when you compare Florida State to the SEC Giants, and there's like 4 of them, but they're there. They don't compete. They just don't compete financially. But when you see that locker room, you're like, yeah, man, what else do you want in a locker room? Do you want like your own personal maitre d'? Like what could Alabama's locker room look like that is so much better than Florida? Now, I know you'd go to Alabama for reasons other than the locker room if you're comparing Florida State and Alabama right now. But I'm just saying, when you're trying to compete with the Joneses from a facility standpoint, I mean, I'm sure their locker room is nicer. I'm sure Ohio State's locker room is nicer, but not that much nicer. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that's an awesome looking locker room. You can go on we had a story on it, right? So you can go look at that. The players were Instagramming it and tweeting about it. It's really cool, man, and it makes it reminds you that yes, Florida State might be poor by SEC standards, but they still have plenty of facilities and the wherewithal to get the facilities to compete with everybody not in the SEC, right? And even, I shouldn't even say everybody not in the SEC. Everybody but like 5 teams and 6 teams in the SEC. Everybody else they really can compete with facilities-wise.
Yeah.
Right now where we are.
Yeah, it does not feel like they cut corners on it at any sort of point. I mean, it's gorgeous. So, again, check out the story over on warchant.com for moving photos of the locker room upgrades. And that's something we get to ask them when we hang out at practice on Tuesday. Everyone's going to be asked, so what's like having new lockers? And they're going to tell us how cool it is. And we might even write a story on that as well. So that's pretty cool, too. A little bit of bittersweet news after we broke for the week. I think it was on Friday the news dropped that the voice of Florida State, I don't know if that's the official title of him, but Gene Deckerhoff, the absolute signature voice of every great sort of football moment, basketball moment in Florida State's history, has announced that he will retire. He'll go off air from Florida State athletics, at least, after the spring game, which is April 9th. He'll finish out his contract with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You and Gene kind of spoke about some of your favorite calls from Deckerhoff. I say bittersweet because the older I get, and I'm not old, but I'm getting older, you're like, man, like seeing my mom being able to retire is so cool. It's like, all right, like, you know what you're going to do tomorrow, Mom? You have nothing to do. Doesn't matter. You can do whatever you want tomorrow. You can do whatever you want for the next 30 years. Just whatever you want. You've earned it. So I never feel like I want to, take away retirement and make people feel bad about it. But Gene Deckerhoff is such an important part of, Florida State fans' memories and things like that. So it's going to be kind of a bummer to not have him making the calls anymore. But shout out to him being able to kind of move on to the second phase of his life. But I don't know, Corey, was there any game that maybe escaped your mind that you didn't mention with Gene Williams, founder and administrator of warchant.com, when speaking about Gene Deckerhoff, or did you have any other sort of thoughts about just what Gene Deckerhoff has meant to this institution, if you will? Real quick, though, the cool thing, too, though, is Florida State released, I don't know, like a 20,000-word bio on him, and I don't think anywhere in there did they mention that he attended the University of Florida. They mentioned that he worked in Gainesville for a stretch, but they at no point mentioned that he went to Florida. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's not something they want to advertise. Much like our great Ira Schoffel, we don't advertise where he went to school. But the point being with Gene and with Ira too, like you get so ingrained in the school that you cover, and with Gene, the school you broadcast for, you become, whether you want to or not, you become a Seminole. And Gene Deckerhoff is a straight up Seminole, man. Like he really, when you listen, there is no like love for the alma mater when it comes to Florida State sports. When you listen, especially, and I brought it up in that video I did with Gene Williams, the game against Florida in '93 with the Ward to Dunn play. I mean, that is as excited as an announcer could ever be. And but with that pass from Charlie Ward to Ward Dunn, and again, when it comes to Deckerhoff, I can't stress enough how lucky Florida State fans are that you got that dude for 4 decades, over 4 decades. It's just and he was such a pro. And again, I wouldn't have known this nearly as I don't know how I didn't realize really how lucky I was to grow up a Florida State fan listening to Gene. And that was the thing. Like in Atlanta, we would get Florida State games. Like some of the local stations would broadcast Florida State games. So when I was a dorky 13-year-old and 15-year-old, I was listening to Deckerhoff on Saturday afternoons while all my other friends were, having fun at either parties or, with girls. I was listening to Deckerhoff call, Florida State Cincinnati in 1990. But you don't realize how lucky you were that he was so good at what he did. Because I listen, now that I have XM radio and Sirius XM, you listen to these other home team broadcasts, you're like, God, this guy's terrible. He's got no juice in his voice. He sounds like he's being tortured to be there, like it's a hostage video. He doesn't, or he's so one-sided and so homerish that it's impossible to listen to. But Deckerhoff was the best because he was really excited and really excitable, but he wasn't such a homer that he couldn't comment on not every play was, oh, they got screwed, the ref screwed us or anything like that. He would be excited for when another team made a play. Or at least they sounded excited. He probably wasn't, but he didn't. It wasn't just like, oh, and they scored, game over. Like that's not Deckerhoff. He's got that bluster that he's just got that excitement in his voice, and he was literally like when I think of all the great moments, and especially growing up, those Florida State moments, man, he knocked it out of the park on almost all of them. Just even the punt Ruski, like Musburger. I'm pretty sure in '88 that when the punt Ruski happened. Musburger, who was broadcasting the game on CBS, was confused because he saw the punter, which was John Wimberly, maybe. There's a little that's going to be the next trivia, Aslan. Who was the punter? Who was the punter for the punt Ruski that faked that the ball went over his head? So Musburger calling the game on CBS says, and it's a bad snap or something because he saw Wimberly jump up, which was just part of the fake. Deckerhoff saw it the whole time. He's like, there's a snap to the up back. And a little handoff to the up, and then Leroy Butler got a long way to go to the 30, to the 40. And like he broadcast that moment, which is the most famous play probably in Florida State history, perfectly. He really did seem to rise to the moments. And even with Michael Snare, with Michael, did you see the end of this game, by the way?
It's on I think I'm delayed 10, 15 seconds. He's talking about TCU Arizona. So
yeah, watch the end of this game. This is nuts.
No, Arizona's going to lose.
Well, I don't know. We're about to see. Do you see what's happening?
There's 12 seconds left on my feed.
Okay, watch what happens real quick. I know this isn't on the broadcast, but I've never seen anything like this.
Y'all are going to live through. We're going to. Oh wow, they didn't call. Oh no! Oh my God! Oh
no, the game's over.
No.
The game's over. He didn't get it off in time.
No, he didn't.
Nope, he didn't get it off in time. Nope. They just showed the replay. The ball's in his hand and the red light's still on.
Okay, that feels
crazy.
Just, though, because I don't know how that wasn't a foul.
Oh, it was definitely a foul. He knocked him with his chest.
Yeah. All right, well, that's good. They'll go to 5 more minutes. We'll be here for it, too, folks. We'll let you know what happens in the TCU Arizona game.
So, but anyway, when it comes to Deckerhoff, those big moments, he rose to the occasion virtually every time. And he was just, not only was he a really good, great broadcaster, legend, I get it, but I'm telling you, folks, I've met him, I've hung out with him at hotels, and just in the press box for the last 10 or 15 years, as genuine as a dude as you'll ever meet. Mm-hmm. And that's another thing that Florida State, much like Bowden, like when Florida State fans had the upper hand with all these other schools that had great coaches because they knew that their guy was a good person. It was a nice person. And Deckerhoff is the same way when it comes to all these legendary announcers. Just a good dude, really approachable, always would give you a go Noles and pose for a photo, whatever you wanted. Just a genuinely nice dude, and I hope he enjoys retirement and has a great retirement and goes and gets to travel and gets to stop doing the call a night game in Raleigh on Saturday night and then have to find some jet to get to California the next day to call a Bucks game. Those days are over for him, thankfully.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, he deserves it, man. Shout out to Gene Deckerhoff. Again, he'll be calling the Garnet and Gold game, and then we'll be going off air for Florida State. So Maybe we'll get him on the show sometime, in his retirement, if he's not on the golf course, or I don't know what he does in his off time, but we'll see if we can maybe get the golden voice. You talked about him not being a homer, which I appreciate.
Are you watching it now?
It's on commercial on my screen. I am in my office. I don't have a television in here.
They just started overtime.
Yeah, the game was tied. The bucket didn't count.
Oh, I got it. Okay, the game was tied. That's where I was confused. I thought Arizona hit that bucket to tie the game.
No,
so it was already tied. Oh, my gosh, that's crazy. All right.
Yeah. Poor. I kind of feel bad for the kid a little bit. Even though it was a foul, and I was going to say this, too, watching all these games this weekend, which is the best weekend in all of sports, and I'm not a basketball guy, but you see so many guys on breakaways, go for the layup. It's like, dude, flush it. Just both hands, throw it down. Doesn't have to be a slam dunk winner.
In that instance in the Arizona game, he might have wanted to finger roll it, get it off his hands, because that trying to flush it is what cost him the win. That's crazy. Wow, what a ending.
Well, we'll see.
By the way, shout out to Mike Krzyzewski getting to the Sweet 16. Were you happy about that, Aslan?
I'm not. I'm kind of. I don't want to say I'm rooting for him, but I wasn't upset. I usually love seeing Duke lose, but whatever. Let him. It was kind of cool to see him get a little bit emotional about how well his team played and really It was just like, hey man, I didn't do anything today. This was no coaching. This was all my players. I'm just so proud of them. So that was kind of cool. I
have a funny story real quick about Duke basketball. So I was in Cherokee, North Carolina, at the casino there on Thursday and Friday. And there's a great sports book there. So I was there basically to do a little gambling, have a little fun, watch some Final Four. I was not the only one that had that idea. It was packed, so that wasn't great. But the funniest moment was the first round games on Friday. Duke was playing Cal State Fullerton, maybe?
Correct.
And the spread was 18.
Uh-huh.
In the final minute, the lead went from 19 to 17 3 different times. So there's all these degenerates, and it's the sports book probably seats 500 people. There's all these degenerates. Duke is down 17. Duke is up 17 with 10 seconds left. Walk on, probably Krzyzewski's grandson, shoots a 3 because the game, it's a 17-point game. He shoots a 3, he misses it. The place groans, and then this other Duke kid comes in and tomahawk dunks the rebound. So now Duke's up 19, and the place goes nuts. There's no way any sports book in the country was louder than this one. And the roof blew off the place. People were so excited that Duke was now up 19. It must have sounded like a Leitner shot or any other famous, the Villanova shot against North Carolina. The place exploded because the lead went up to 19. And then Duke just let the Fullerton kid drive down the court and hit a layup at the buzzer. Which was just hearing that, because it was North Carolina, so most of the people I think had Duke to cover minus 18. Yeah. So to hear the excitement where the roof blew off the casino, and then 3 seconds later the Fullerton kid's laying it up at the buzzer, nobody even challenges them because who cares, the game's over. And it's like, man, that's why you can't gamble. It was just it was great moments in gambling history, or awful moments. It was just crazy that Duke just let that kid score. But yeah, that was really funny to just hear the reaction of those shots late in the game, of a game that had been over for 30 minutes. So good. That's fun, Aslan. You should do that one time. You should go to a sports book for the first 2 days of March Madness. It's fun.
I will. If you can't get out to a sports book, it's okay. The madness has officially begun, and it's time for you to shoot your shot and score big on the nonstop action with MyBookie, mybookie.ag. It doesn't matter where or whether you're filling out multiple brackets, picking your national championship winner, or simply looking for player and game props, MyBookie has you covered. So sign up today at mybookie.ag. Use the promo code WARCHANT. WARCHANT promo code. Secure a first deposit bonus of up to $1,000. It's easy. Put $200 in, and you can play with $300. Just use the promo code WARCHANT to claim your bonus. College, NBA, UFC, fight game, pro sports, no matter the sport, no matter the minute, MyBookie puts the action in your hands with in-game live betting. And with choices from thousands of lines and odds, you can turn any game day into payday. Haven't even seen the lines yet, Core, but I will tell you, whatever the under on Miami, Iowa State is, hammer it. Take it. That is going to be 52-49 or something is going to be the winning score in the Miami-Iowa State game. And we're going to go with the Friars. Friars did real well. Don't even know what the line is, but take the money line. Take the Friars. They're going to be probably underdogs at Kansas. I'll take them all day. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. Go to mybookie.ag. Use that promo code WARCHANT. How about the ACC, Corey? Huh?
Yeah.
How about basketball? You see, I saw Ira retweet your guy David Hale, who tweeted out a quote from Bruce Pearl after his second seed at Auburn Tigers wilted and just got dominated. I mean, wire to wire, Miami had the lead in that game. Notre Dame took down Alabama. I think Arkansas is the only SEC team left after Tennessee got throttled. So it's a beautiful thing to see them kind of squirm and make excuses. Bruce Pearl said that he knows that the conference is going to get hammered because of the outcome in the tournament. But ultimately, man, it's a grind in the SEC. They just beat up on each other, which I saw somebody, astutely point out. All right, so what is it then, man? Like, you guys are so good that you elevate each other, or you guys aren't good enough and you beat up on each other and you can't win in the tournament. So, like, make up your mind. Either your strength as a conference, you got to wear it one way or the other, or admit kind of your inferiority to a certain aspect. So, shout out to the SEC. Way to lose. Good. I was getting a little bit nervous about them winning.
That's what they do. And the ACC's got 3 of the Sweet 16. Is that right?
Yeah, Carolina,
Miami, Carolina. By the way, that Carolina game was insanity.
You want to talk about bad officiating like that? I would have hopped on with you and Tom Lang to talk about bad officiating if that was a Florida State game. I'd been, all right, I want in on this one.
It was incredible. Like, I was watching it with Brady, and I was like, Baylor went like 6 minutes without being called for a foul. And it was like in North Carolina was being called for every foul, which, again, nobody listening to this, nobody hosting this podcast feels bad about North Carolina basketball not getting foul calls. I mean, let's be honest, but it was egregious. And then and I was like, look, man, they are trapping every pass. They're the big kid for Baylor chest fouled like 4 different times, and they never called it. He was knocking kids in the backcourt, and they just called backcourt violations. It was nuts. But for them to blow a 25-point lead with 10 minutes to go, which is insanity. I didn't even know that was possible. And then still win the game with one of their best players, one of their starters out for an ejection, the other starter having fouled out on another ridiculous charge call because the NCAA loves nothing more than its charge calls, was a really nice win for your Hubert Davis. Roll it out there, Hubert. And for North Carolina in general. So, yeah, that game, Duke winning, and then Miami really kind of controlling Auburn. Yeah. And what's funny is Leonard, I think Leonard said like 4 times this year after games, like he thought that this particular team was a Final Four team or a capable Final Four team. Miami, Purdue, Carolina when they play well, and Duke. And they're all still there. They're all still available. So, yeah, that would be something. If I wouldn't expect Miami to make the Final Four, but it does help that you have 3 guards that can really score and go get their own buckets, and Miami does. And yeah, I don't know how Florida State fans would feel about that. Like, on one hand, you'd feel proud that you beat a Final Four team twice. On the other hand, it's Miami, and you don't root for them in anything. So I assume you mostly don't want Miami to win any more games.
It's ACC, baby, man. It's success
right.
for all of us, man. That's what it's all about,
right.
man. I loved it. Go Canes. Da, 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 da. No,
Calm it down. Calm it down.
So, yeah, that was good to see SEC lose. Burn, baby.
Boo, that St. Peter's, Kentucky game. By the way, I was in the sports book for that. I think that was Thursday night.
Correct.
That was incredible. That was nuts. How does that happen?
I don't know.
I mean, and now St. Peter's in the Sweet 16?
Yeah. They got good luck with Purdue, though, man. Purdue's got that Jordan Ivey kid's amazing, and then whoever that big is just
Jaden,
absolute.
Yeah. He's like Ja Morant, man. He's just a freak of an athlete. He's not as good as Ja Morant, who is, but he's a freak of an athlete, man.
Yeah. I don't know if we'll probably roll it out here in the next day or so. I don't know if there's a word we're talking about, to really switch gears here, kind of not very smooth, but going back to football a little bit. We'll have a defensive roundtable probably on the website. I'm guessing probably later today or maybe on Tuesday, since we'll get practice Tuesday night. We'll have 3 more shows this week, maybe a live one. I'm not sure. Maybe a recruiting live show. We'll figure it out, but we're kind of back in the groove now with practice resuming. But, as we were doing the roundtable thing, we kind of took the same formula that we did for the offense core, and we were, kind of asked, like, what have you seen from a transfer that surprised you, and what have you seen that's made you feel more optimistic maybe about the defense? Those were tough questions to me because I feel like if anything right now, like that's on schedule kind of. No, I don't know.
Yeah.
We kind of realized where they've got to go, what the need is. Like they've got to figure out the pass rush. Maybe Derek McClendon can kind of fill in the void. Maybe Jared Verse can help fill the void, obviously. But just I'm not panicked about the defense. I don't know if we should be right now. But I mean, did you see anything that made you feel more optimistic? Was it a Derek McClendon? I just feel like for whatever they are, this defense, whatever they're going to be, we'll see how it works out. But right now, I feel like it's too early to kind of feel any sort of way about the defense.
Yeah, I agree. I would say two things. McClendon, number one. And again, I'm trying to hold out I'm trying to hold out judgment that maybe I'm just confused by the 9, his number. And I just feel like that for some reason those single digits on defensive ends make guys look faster and more twitchy than they actually are. But he just looks like he has a burst. So that's one thing. And then Duke Cooper.
Yeah.
Like, maybe you have a true lockdown corner. It's still way too early. The dude has played, 6 games as a college player, and then he's been in 1 week of spring practice. So I'm not saying you do have one. So don't come at me when he gives up an 80-yard touchdown to LSU and say, I thought he was the next Dion. I'm not saying that. So don't put those words in my mouth. But he's looked the part of a lockdown corner, like a future all-conference type player. He's looked great. And if you have that on one side of the field, and then you have all these other bodies with experience on the other side of the field, man, you got something. You know what I mean? You might have something there. And so those two things, McClendon and Duke Cooper, have been to me really, really impressive. All those other guys, Verse, Bethune, those guys have looked the part. They've looked good, but it's hard to know after a week. Yeah. Cooper has looked in the 1-on-1, 7-on-7s, 11-on-11s. He's looked really, really good, and he's just kind of picked up where he was from where he was last year. And then if McClendon can be a real option as your other defensive end, and Burst can be as good as we think he can be, well, okay, then you're not taking a huge Neil Armstrong leap back from where you were last year at defensive end. You're not going to be as good. It's still a step backwards, but maybe it's like a little shimmy backwards, and it's not a huge leap backwards from your production on the defensive end.
What an effort out of the Arizona players right there on that last possession there.
That was crazy, yeah.
Yeah, what I was thinking, though, and I mentioned it, which, by the way, to go back to the mailbag, I think on Friday, somebody asked us, or maybe it was even 2 weeks ago, but this is the correct answer now that I've had a whole week to think about it. But somebody asked us, other than Jordan being all ACC, what player, if they were able to be all ACC, would mean that Florida State wins like 9 or 10 games or whatever. And I was like, cornerback, if Amari Cooper can be that. But then I was like, well, we had that with Asante Samuel, and that didn't work out, so what do I know? Jermaine Johnson, probably a good one. You talked about maybe a defensive end stepping up. But it's a receiver, so it's kind of cheating, right? I mean, if one of these guys, if Johnny Wilson or Micah Pittman is first team All-ACC, then that means that Jordan, by virtue, is having a good season too. So that's the correct answer. But to bring it back to the defense, I mean, all right, so I don't know how we feel about the defensive line 2020 versus what they have 2022. But is it just a matter of, okay, Cooper versus Asante, but then opposite of Asante was freshman Jarvis Brownlee, freshman Jarian Jones. Those guys are now 2 years old or wiser. Or is it because there is Greedy Vance, there is Kevin Noles? I mean, is it the experience of the guys that were in 2020 that kind of lived through that, or is it the younger infusion, youth Kevin Noles, and then the infusion of a veteran like Greedy Vance that makes you think, okay, that's not a good comparison to do 2020 to 2022? Or do we just feel that everything is better? I mean, better linebacking core, but I don't know how we feel about the front four. But probably the back 7, back 8 we feel better about.
Well, and I think, look, man, the 2020 defensive line going into the season we thought was something that it wasn't. Durden didn't play well very much. Marvin Wilson didn't play well at all and was either hurt or I think he was hurt. Yeah. He was injured. He was fighting through an injury all season, so he wasn't the Marvin Wilson we were expecting. Neither was the Corey Durden we were expecting. Certainly not the Corey Durden of last year at NC State. And then you had two defensive ends that couldn't do anything. Had 3 sacks between them. One had 0 sacks and still got drafted. So I think the defensive line this year will be it's better and more productive than it was in 2020. It couldn't be less productive. Those guys that we thought were going to be the anchor of that team in 2020 just never materialized. Dern and Wilson and Kane Doe never took that step. And then J-Rob just, they were okay. Nothing special. And I think this Fabian Lovett is better than any other Fabian Lovett we've seen. I think he's a good player. He's a good defensive tackle. So yeah, I think that's one of the big deals is those guys is I think your defensive line is better. And when it comes to the secondary, yeah, man, I also you didn't have Jamie Robinson. That guy's the real deal at safety, man. He's a good player. You just have more experience, and Greedy Vance is a big addition. And then we'll see what happens with Brownlee and everybody else. Noles is good. With Cooper, Noles, and Robinson, you have 3 pretty solid players in the secondary, which is more than you knew you had 2 years ago.
Well said. All right, then let's start landing this plane. Let's talk about the Diamond again. Both the baseball and softball team won their series, took their series by virtue of doubleheader wins on Sunday. The ladies dropped the first game against Boston College in 8 innings, but then bounced back. So they're cruising. I don't want to jinx them, but I just can't imagine they're not going to be like a top 8 seed. So good luck to whoever's going to come.
Oh no, what are they? They're like 30-2 or 28-2 or something like that. Something and 2, and they beat Alabama in the midweek. So that was, even though they lost that middle. By the way, that's Corey Clark luck for you. So on Sunday, I'm like, you know what? There's both softball and baseball both have a doubleheader. I'll go out. I'll watch the first game at softball, watch them roll over Boston College, and then I'll go to baseball and watch a quick little, second game at baseball. I'll be out of there. It'll be a fun day. It was a beautiful day, great weather. Yeah. And then I went over to softball and they lost. They were 27-1, and then Corey rolls into the stadium to watch them play, and they lose to Boston College and get 1 hit. But then they came back on the second game and beat Boston College to win the series. So they should stay number 2 in the country. And then the baseball team, I don't even know what to say about that thing. Yeah. Great series win though.
Yeah. The ladies won on Saturday 4-0 and then won the back half of the doubleheader on Sunday 4-0 as well. Danielle Watson, Kat Sandercock absolutely dialed in. They'll be back in action Wednesday up in Troy. Look at them just going to Alabama, going to Tuscaloosa, going to Troy. Don't matter.
They're not scared.
Yeah, so they'll take on Troy on Wednesday. Looks like maybe a doubleheader. 2 games are going to maybe try to squeeze in there. Who knows? But then on the Diamond, Saturday, absolute dominating victory. Rain's kind of delayed. Well, didn't postpone the game from Friday. So they played a Saturday contest with Parker Messick going on Saturday and then a doubleheader Sunday. They win 13-5. Sunday, Bryce Hubbard gets kind of roughed up. Dylan Simmons comes into a game that was kind of maybe being a little bit more competitive and just gives up BP and gets tagged real hard. I think, 4 hits on 13 pitches, 3 runs. Not good. They lose 15-4. And then the absolute marathon with Ross Dunn. This kid, he's a machine, man. He's coming on strong. He, for however shaky he looked in the first 2-3 series of the season, what he's done these last 2 weeks in conference play has really kind of rewrote the whole narrative on him. They win that one 6-5. Jaime Ferrer with a solo home run in the 17th inning. 17th inning. I don't know if there's any other observations you have either from looking at some of the box scores Saturday or what you're out there on Sunday, Corey, but the bullpen just was one of those things where, I don't know, after Jonas Scalara comes in, they're nursing a 3-1 lead on Sunday. Wild pitch. They're having problems behind the plate still. Whether it's Colton Vincent or Brock Mathis, it's a little bit concerning because you would think that Mike Martin Jr. would take great pride in recruiting and developing a guy at the backstop a little bit stronger than what they've had thus far, but slowly evaporates. Then Scalara gives up, I think, a solo home run in the 8th inning. Yeah. But I don't know. I don't want to put too much stock into it because I'm like, oh, they're going to lose this game, they're going to lose the series, and all the goodwill from the Wake Forest game is over. But to fall behind in the 12th inning, 2 runs behind, Alex Terrell ties up with 2-run homer. And then after that, it's I don't know, man. Is it looking too much into it? I don't know how much of a battle of attrition and how much emotion plays into an extra inning contest that almost is 2 full games. But I just feel like if they would have lost that game, man, that NC State had their bus ride to the airport and their flight back was going to be amazing if they would have been able to pull it off. And they feel probably 180 degrees what Florida State feels right now. But shout out to White Crowell, I guess, coming on and soaking up a lot of innings. But I don't know, anything change in your mind, or did you walk back from the ledge at all after what you saw the way things ended on Sunday?
No, I thought the two big developments from Sunday were Crowell, who you mentioned, who has not been – he was good last year.
Yes.
And he has been, dreadful this year, honestly. He just hasn't been anything close to what they were expecting out of him. And then he came in that game and pitched 5 1/3 scoreless innings.
Jeez, that much? Wow.
Yeah, I mean, dude, Davis Hare. And Davis Hare pitched 3 1/3 scoreless innings. So those two guys can combine for almost a full game by themselves, and I think struck out 11 or 12 combined, and gave up 0 runs and like 2 hits.
Yeah.
So when you think about that, okay, Scolaro still isn't quite what you want. And Meat
what
said
is
after
Scolaro? I hate to interrupt you, Core, but like, what is the hope on Jonas Scolaro? Like, you're the baseball guy. When I think of a closer, I think of like velocity, and I don't. If his best pitch is a changeup, is that what you want in a stopper or a closer?
Not really. It's what Trevor Hoffman did, and he got to Cooperstown with it. But most people know you can't have an 88, 87, 82 mile an hour guy as your closer typically. He got a couple bad breaks. Like one was an infield single that he gave up. The home run, nice piece of hitting, I guess, but the wind was blowing out to right, and it looked like a pop-up. Like the kid didn't get enough of it, a ton of it. But and he had just struck out, what's his name, Tommy White. He had just struck him out, and then the next kid, because it's NC State, they have some guys that can really play, took him over the screen and right. It wasn't hit great. Probably went 321 feet maybe, but it was enough. But after the game, Mike Martin Jr. was asked about that, and he's like, look, he shook off the sign. He's like, Jimmy gave him a sign. He shook it off, and he gave him a solo home run. So we're gonna keep talking to our players that our guys know what they're doing. They look at all the analytics. They have a lot of data. They work really hard. Don't shake off the coaches.
Oh God.
So essentially, telling them like he threw the wrong pitch. Yeah. But no, I think the two biggest developments here these last 2 weekends for me, the biggest development might be Davis Hare. Like that dude. Yeah. Like he built on Wake Forest and then came up against NC State and took over in a 3-3 game against a good lineup and went 3 1/3. So we got 10 outs, and 7 of them were strikeouts, and that's a really good lineup. And Meat was talking about after the game. He's like, look, if his split finger is on, that's essentially an unhittable pitch, and he throws 95, and he throws a fastball 1 out of every 7 pitches. And he throws 95. So he's a pretty nasty dude. And then, so you throw him into the mix, and if Crowell can get anywhere close to what he was, if he can be the guy they want, if he can be this guy, because he was still pumping 93 in his 5th inning, 93, 94 in his 5th inning of work. Now, he gave up a screaming double, that maybe in another park that doesn't have a screen right there is a home run. I mean, that guy crushed it. But it was a double. He didn't give up any runs, and he got all the big outs he needed. So I think that, to me, the biggest developments of the last 2 weekends to me, Crowell, maybe, we'll see. That's still a wait and see. Davis Hare, and then Ross Dunn. Yeah. Like, I would say Dunn, the last 2 weekends, has been the best pitcher on the staff. Yeah. And Messick and Hubbard are good. They're top 2-3 round draft picks. Yeah. And Dunn has been better than both of them. So you start firing that 1-2-3 combo at people to go along with Montgomery and midweek games. And then maybe Crowell and Hare, you got something there in the bullpen. And then, with Scolaro, man, it's just, I think, it's weird. He can make a player look foolish in an inning. Like he struck out 3 or 4 guys, and he makes them look foolish, and then he leaves a pitch up, or it's a fastball that they get a hold of, and all of a sudden he's giving up 2 runs. He gives up a single and then a 2-run homer or something like that. He's not getting shelled, but he's not been great. He's not even been good yet. If they could get him being back to what he's been in the past, well, then I feel like with Scolaro, Hare, and then throw anybody else in there, Crowell, Whitaker, who pitched,
got some hope. Connor Whitaker,
but he gave up the bomb. He gave up the bomb in the 12th inning. But he's been good. I think that was his first earned run of the season. So they got some guys, man. Scolaro is a guy in the bullpen. They've got to get. He's got to be more lights out than he's been. But the track record is there. He could come around and maybe he's pitched in a little bad luck. We'll see as the season goes on. But you like Ross Dunn is a really big development, and then we'll see about Wyatt Crowell. But I will say this, man. I don't know if they showed it on the TV replay, but when Toral hit that home run to tie the game in the 12th, did you see his reaction? Did they ever show it?
I don't recall.
I've never seen it in my life. He hit the home run, and of course he hit it, so he knew it was gone as soon as it left the bat. He stared at the NC State dugout as he walked to first, stared at it, and threw his bat at their dugout.
What?
It wasn't even a bat. I guess it was a bat toss. He fired the bat at the base of their dugout fence. It's almost as hard as he could. I've never seen anything like it. And I asked Crowell about it after the game. Like, have you seen anything like that, or what was your? And he's like, yeah. It's like, I was surprised the NC State guys didn't start chasing after him, like in the dugout. They didn't hop the rail and go chase after him. He's like, but they didn't, which was good. But yeah, I didn't know if because I asked Meade about it after the game because Terrell didn't come in for interviews. I was like, were they chirping at him? What? It looked like they must have said something like, "Good luck, Tubby. Try hitting. Hey, your fifth strikeout. You're about to get your fifth strikeout. Good luck." And he was hearing something, but I've never seen a bat toss so emphatic towards the other. I mean, he slung it at the other dugout as hard as he could. It was incredible, but it was a great moment. And then they end up winning the game, which is better than losing a 17-inning game. And like I think I mentioned this earlier, they set their all-time NCAA record for most strikeouts in a college baseball game at 52 combined, or no, 54 combined.
And Jaime Ferrer, your hero, with the solo home run in the 17th
after
inning.
5 strikeouts.
Yeah, he was chirping going around the bags, but I guess
I
you
don't
can't.
think they like that team. Those two teams don't like each other much. It wouldn't appear.
Yeah, that's crazy. Terrell struck out 5 times. Jackson Green struck out 4. Jaime Ferrer struck out 5. Roberts struck out 4 times. How about the freshmen though? Ferrer and Ferrer and Tibbs. Man, they're stringing something together. I mean, I'm still afraid they're going to hit a wall at some point, but we'll take it for now. It's some pretty good recruiting this Meat guy. Get Terrell on back on track though. He's batting .262. Not good.
But he hit that was a huge hit. That was a huge home run. That was his second game tying home run in the late innings this year, and they were both monster shots. He had one against Cal on Friday night. But they did it's weird because they played 17 innings, so there's going to be more strikeouts than normal. There's going to be a few more errors than normal because you're essentially playing 2 games. They still made some boneheaded stuff in the field,
and they don't know how to field bunts. Right? Let's work on bunt defense, please.
Bunt defense was rough, especially in the first game, and then they had a couple bad plays catcher wise in the second game. Colton Minson again, man, if you're going to hit under 200. And he had a couple nice hits in that game. He almost won the game himself. Yeah. He had a screaming double off the screen that would have been a walk-off home run. And he had another hit in that game, too. So maybe the bat's coming around a little bit. But he also had a couple pass balls. He had an error on a strike him out on a ball in the dirt, a strikeout in the dirt, where he had to throw to first and throw it over his head. Yeah. So you've got to, if you're going to be the kid that hits 180 but is a defensive presence at catcher, you got to be better. In Mathis, God bless that kid. He caught the first game of the doubleheader, and they thought, okay, we're going to give you the second game off. He came in the 8th inning when they pinch ran for Vincent after his leadoff double in the 9th. They pinch ran for him, hoping the game would be over right then. They score that run, and it's over. Well, it didn't. It went to extra innings. He ended up having to catch 8 more innings. Yeah. So that dude caught 17 innings in one day. But, yeah, I mean, it was an exhausting, unbelievable day at the park. And shout out to the 250 or 300 people that were left at the end, because I mean, I know you have families. I know some of you personally. I know you have families, but God bless you sitting around and hanging around watching, especially after you watched. There was an NC State kid, Aslan. You were watching the game. I can't even remember his name. He had an ERA over 6, and he came in and pitched 5 innings and struck out 12 in 5 innings, throwing nothing but fastballs.
Oh yeah, the Villeman kid.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I couldn't believe it. Ferrer looked like he'd never picked up a bat before against that kid. It was and he was just 92. But I asked Meade about him, what was he doing? I don't understand. And he's like, look, the ball was most people, he talked about verticality with the pitching, and I don't, it's over my head, but he's like, it wasn't going vertical like most pitches go vertical. It was shooting back up, and it's almost like it's like a trick. And you see it here, and you can't get on top of it because it's rising back up. And so it became it was just a 92-mile-an-hour fastball down the middle, and they could not even foul it off. It was nuts. I'd never quite seen anything like it. So, yeah, Florida State struck out 28 times as a team. The previous school record was 20, so they shattered that bad boy. They Marshall McDougal'd that one. And then they struck out NC State 26 times. So on Sunday afternoon into night, Florida State and NC State set an all-time NCAA record with 54 combined strikeouts. And I got to see it all. He did. It was incredible.
Noles back in action Tuesday and Wednesday, taking on UCF.
Yeah, how about that?
So, yeah, they actually will be out there covering football practice.
Yeah, we'll get to see both. We'll get to do a little bit of both. But seriously, though, for the baseball team, great win.
Yeah,
great series win. To win those two games. You start off the ACC 4-2. Wake Forest is good, too, now. So you start off the ACC season 4-2. We go over two pretty good programs.
The clutch shot, the biggest hits. It's time for the Zaxby's Indescribably Good
Player of the Week.
The man has spoken, and it's time for the Zaxby's Indescribably Good Player of the Week. Corey, I'll go first if you don't mind. We're going to go to the Oval, but the infield. Kelechi Iheanacho, senior from Nigeria for the Noles. Javelin, my friend. She wins in the first outdoor event, takes top honors over at Auburn. The mark probably good enough to also get her into NCAA regionals. She threw it 52.84 meters. So, I don't know, folks. Let's just imagine being on the goal line and throwing a javelin, and it goes past the nose of the Florida State logo at midfield of Doak Campbell Stadium. Freaking javelin. Kelechi Iheanacho. That's my Zaxby's Indescribably Good Player of the Week. I'm a big fan of the decathletes. All the events in the decathlon. That's true athletic ability. Running, throwing, jumping. So, Iheanacho, my Zaxby's Indescribably Good Player of the Week. Shout out to her. Gets the individual title in the javelin.
I saw Dan O'Brien win the gold at the 96 Olympics in the decathlon.
Yeah, Dave
How about
and Dan.
that? You remember that guy, the Dave and Dan thing they did? But neither one of them qualified for the Olympics or whatever it was. And then Dan won it the next year, the next Olympics. Yeah. I'm going to go with Jaime Ferrer. We already talked about him. But you know what's great about sports, Aslan, is the dude had struck out like 5 times in a row and looked awful. Or 5 times out of his last 6 at-bats he had struck out. It looked bad, like bad. And then he gets down 0-2 with 2 pretty horrific swings. And in the press box, we're wondering, is 6 strikeouts a school record? We were actually discussing that. We were in mid-sentence. I was in mid-sentence being like, yeah, that's got to be a school. And then as I'm saying that, he bombs a walk-off home run, which is just like, that's the beauty of sports. And I even asked him afterwards, like, how do you have that mindset to keep, when you get down 0-2 again after striking out essentially 5 times in a row, like, oh, God, I'm about to strike out another time? And he's like, I just have confidence. And I know my team has confidence in me. And I always think I'm better than the pitcher. No, whatever pitcher's out there, I think I'm better than he is. And I'm going to beat him. And if he makes his pitch, yeah, he's probably going to beat me. But if he makes a mistake, I'm going to make him pay. And the kid hit a walk-off. And that was it's just really cool that there can be so many redemptive type stories in sports like that. For the kid, and he had some big at-bats too and came up empty. For him to come up big in that spot and hit a walk-off after really having a rough day, that's the beauty of sports. So Jaime Ferrer with, I assume that's his first walk-off home run. Maybe he had one in high school. I don't know.
Yeah, and also of note, he was lights out on Saturday. He went 4 for 5 with 4 RBIs. So he had a great weekend. So good pick, Corey. Those are our Zaxby's Indescribably Good Players of the Week. All right, we got Michael Langston coming up. But Corey, you want to share something with the class?
Yeah, I did. When I was at softball, I got there, I think, in the second inning, and I hung out with Devin Flaherty's dad for like a long time, like 4 innings. A really good dude. And I'm a sports dad too, not nearly to the level of Devin Flaherty, the starting second baseman of Florida State. Not to his level, but anytime she came up to bat, I walked away. Like, I just know how it is. And I'm watching, 13-year-old baseball, not, high level college softball like he is. So I walked away, and we look in that first game. It looked like she had hit the game-winning hit with a runner on. I think it was a runner on second with 2 outs in the last inning. It would have been a walk-off. She drilled one to left center, but the wind caught it up, and the girl caught it on the warning track. But yeah, so we walked away. I made sure to walk away from him. Then I believe his name is Mark. I'm terrible with names, but I hung out with him for 4 or 5 innings. He was awesome. And then again, terrible with names. There was a girl. I say girl because she was young, like probably 18 or 19. I think she was in college. But she was a fan of the show. Okay. And she asked to take a picture with me. Nice. And that's the first time I've ever had that. I've taken pictures with people before. It's never been with a young woman, which was awesome. She was a fan of the show and a fan of the Warchant raps we do on YouTube. So that was, I think her name was Maddie, but again, I'm about 28% sure with that. So that's probably wrong. I do know it started with an M. I'm almost positive about that. So sorry if I got that wrong. But yeah, man, that's cool. We hear that a lot. I hear it especially. No, I shouldn't say especially, like you don't, but I feel like I'm out more at like stuff like that. Yeah. But people are very complimentary of you and I on our podcast, buddy. And I just wanted to share the love a little bit. And also Cam McDonald was there at the softball game.
Nice.
He saw me. He's like, "Hey, man, you cover softball too? You're like a jack of all trades." And he's like, And he's like, "I'm out here. I want to see why this team wins so much." So he was really excited to watch a little softball too. So I thought that was cool to see.
Yeah, they showed several of the softball players. I think even Devin Flaherty in the stands for that doubleheader. The baseball.
I don't know if she was there in the 17th inning because I assume she had class. And I tell you what, man, I'll be honest. I think it was Carry On hit a ball that was going to be the game winner. And the kid in right field made that diving catch.
Yeah.
I legitimately I wanted to go choke that kid. Like, who are you trying to impress, man? Y'all are going to make the postseason. Why are you diving out here? It's been a 9-hour. You already won one of the games. You already won a game 15-4. You don't need to make that diving catch. That was ridiculous. But anyway, hey, all in all, a good weekend for both Diamond Sports. Won 2 out of 3. So good weekend for both of them.
And I looked up Devin Flaherty's bio. They don't go with the whole so-and-so is the child, the daughter of, Bob and Monica Flaherty or anything, so.
Oh, man, I want to say Mark, but he's a Warchant guy, too. He's on Warchant.
Who is
So, yeah, he said he joined Warchant in 1997. How about that?
Yeah, dial-up days.
I was going to say, that's exactly what he said. And he remembers being on dial-up, seeing if somebody like David Warren was going to commit. Nice. Way back when he was at law school at Florida State. So, yeah, man, it's cool that a big-time Florida State fan like that has a daughter that's on, the best program on the campus.
Yeah. Who's the next David Warren out there in the recruiting class for 2023? I don't know. Maybe Michael Langston knows. We'll talk recruiting with Michael Langston immediately. No commercial. We're going to it right now. Enjoy. What is going on, everybody? I'm not going to take you totally behind the curtain, but, man, Michael Langston, I don't know why he's friends with me. Just out there grinding all weekend along with Austin Cox, and then I kept him holding on for another 10 minutes almost before midnight to give us a wrap-up of things. Michael, how are you, man, other than waiting way too long for things?
I'm great. Everything's good. Long past 4 days. Certainly FSU is certainly keeping us busy. It seems like there was a lot of visitors almost every day, but and then they're going to have another one tomorrow, Aslan. There's a 5-star wide receiver that's coming to Tallahassee to visit tomorrow, Shelton Sampson Jr. He's a 5-star, I think the number 11 player in the country for the 2023 class. So, yeah, Norvell and them are not slowing down, and certainly a lot going on around, the Moore Athletic Center.
Again, yeah. Spring break for who? Not for the coaching staff or Michael. Players reported back on Sunday. I'm sure everybody saw the photos and videos of them in their new locker room. That looks pretty cool. But Shelton Sampson, as Michael said, 5-star receiver out of Baton Rouge, 6'4", 181. That'll hunt. We like that kind of stuff.
Yep. 4.35 40. Can do a little bit of everything. Certainly one of the best receivers in the country. The thing is, and we've talked about this for weeks, Aslan, they're getting these kids on campus, and you have no chance if you don't get them on campus, and they're doing a really good job getting these elite prospects on campus. So we saw that again today. They had a lot of really good ones today, and then Saturday, same thing. So they're really making a strong impression on, at the very least, of getting these prospects to see what FSU's doing.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, obviously there's the ties to Louisiana with David Johnson. There's also, the support staff guy they brought in from, I think, Madison Prep out there in Louisiana. Does this feel kind of like they're doing a favor, these players, by coming and giving like a courtesy look, like, hey, like their coach is friends with Johnson or whomever's on Norvell's staff? Or do you sense kind of like a real, genuine sense, or will we know more after Monday when you're able to catch up with a guy like Sheldon?
I think most of them are genuine as far as interest. Now, we had like, for instance, a kid today, Caleb Downs, I think Raul's 100 guy. I don't think he's really like that big on FSU, but he was on a bus tour, which a bus tour, for people who don't know, a lot of these prospects play on the same 7-on-7 team, so they go on these bus trips to different colleges. So I think when a guy like Caleb Downs, yeah, that was probably just a fun trip. But most of these guys, I think it's genuine interest. Like with Shelton, I think it's genuine interest. FSU offered him early. He's really close with Yak. I think he knows a few of the support guys too. He's close to them. So I think he likes Norvell, and I think he likes what FSU's doing as far as what he saw a little bit last year. I know it kind of is silly to talk about that when you're talking about other teams like Alabama and Georgia and Clemson and these teams that have really established themselves. But I think they're really gathering the attention of a lot of these recruits of, hey, I could see them building what they're doing there. I notice, it's like recruits are saying, I notice what you're doing, Coach Norvell. I'm seeing it. So it's like, I want to see what it's about. So I think a lot of these kids are intrigued about what Norvell is doing there, and even more importantly, what they're going to do this year. Right. So on. I think that's what the big deal is there.
All right, let's go and revisit Saturday, and then we'll follow up with Sunday and let you get some sleep here, Michael. You deserve it, man. Let's start with Saturday, talking about 5-star wide receivers. Close enough. I'll give him the edge. Jaylen Brown, 6'2", 178 out of Gulliver Prep, visited campus on Saturday. How real is that interest? What do you think kind of stood out from his visit?
Yeah, I think it's real. I mean, Jalen's always really liked I know the fans probably haven't liked Ron Dugans, but Jaylen Brown likes him a lot, and the relationship goes really deep with him. And I think the big thing with Jaylen was kind of selling him on what they're doing. I think he's already sold on the culture and what they're doing. I think just continuously moving forward what FSU's doing as far as on the field, I think that's really the most important thing. But I think the interest is extremely genuine. I mean, he mentioned like teams like Oklahoma, LSU, Miami, they're going to be in it, but there's a different feeling around his relationship with FSU compared to his other teams. I think he has a closer connection with them, and I think that starts with Dugans because he's been recruiting this kid for probably like 3 or 4 years, so I think he has an advantage on a lot of these schools. But I think really for me with the chance with FSU, I think it really depends on just consistently improving what your product is on the field. Like if they go out there and, I mean, Jaylen really noticed what they did against Miami. That jumped out to him, and he noticed where they're going. He saw flashes of where they're going, and I think he just wants to see even more consistency this year. And I think if they do that, they're going to have a really good shot with Jaylen Brown.
Moving along, sticking with the offense. Why is he doing this to me, man? Why is he making me think we have a shot? Dante Moore, my dude, from Detroit, back in town, for real?
No shot at all.
Why does he keep coming down here? Stop it, Dante.
Well, he hasn't been since last spring. So
I thought he was on campus this past weekend.
Okay, he was here this weekend, but he hasn't been here since that last year. So it's been a year.
Well, still, I mean, 2 times. Come on now.
Yeah, but this comes back to what I just said about Aslan about the bus tour thing. He was part of a bus tour for something, a lot of these Georgia prospects, and I think 7-on-7. So he was one that wasn't really, it's kind of like there's not really high interest. I guess FSU knows, like, look, this kid's probably going to stay in state, probably going to go to Michigan or Michigan State because that's where he's from, Detroit. I think they kind of realize, like, hey, it ain't going to happen. So no, don't go to. I'm gonna squash that. Don't get your hopes up there. So that's done with. Chris Parsons, your quarterback. That's your guy.
All right. A guy can hope. Do we want to talk about Dakari Nelson or Eddie Pleasant at all in terms of the last guy from Saturday? I don't want to give up everything. Everything is over at the Premium Recruiting Board, so check that out. But anybody else from Saturday we should talk about before we pivot to Sunday?
Yeah, I think Eddie Pleasant was the one that intrigued me because he's in the 2023 class. He's a DB. They like him a lot. We know how good Woodson does with DBs. His recruiting's really good. And this is a kid that with length and range and his speed, I think really attracted him. It was a funny story with Eddie was they were actually supposed to offer him last week when he came, but he left a little bit quicker than they thought he would, and so they couldn't offer him. So he came back, and obviously I offered him this weekend, and he said that FSU is one of his top schools now. He's going to come back for the spring game, so I think that's the guy that's probably going to be in my future hot boards. So he's a guy that's going to be in there. Yeah, so I wanted to really address him just because I thought, it's a big deal. He got his offer right away. So that told you, like, hey, this is a guy FSU sold on. So I thought that was a big deal. I thought it was a really big deal when Reuben Bain came back for a defensive lineman from Miami Central, came back to FSU for another visit a week after he already visited FSU. So I thought that was a big deal. I think it's significant as far as FSU's change because I think it's more FSU Miami battle. And I think it's a big deal because he's from Miami Central, and we know FSU has a lot of Miami Central players on their team. Daughtry Richardson, Kier Thomas played there.
Maurice
Smith. There's a lot of guys. We know Dalvin Cook, the most famous of them all. So there's a lot of Miami Central players, and he's really noticed what FSU does with Central players. It's like they always do good, and that's kind of the thing he told me, on Saturday was, Mike, they always do well with Central players, and I really like what Odell does with the defensive tackles. I really like what Coach JP is doing with the ends. So I think the interest in the momentum with Bain is certainly going in a positive direction for FSU. So those are kind of two of the guys that jumped out to me.
Reuben Bain, 6'3", 249, as Michael said, out of Miami Central, defensive lineman, 4-star, rivals 150-ish almost. He's 158 overall in the nation. Let's keep it in the trenches, Michael. And, I had a little bit of apprehension about maybe what kind of kid the staff would go after. They really are very much into the holistic overall picture of these kids, making sure they're like good dudes, which is cool. And, yeah, that's an important thing. But, sometimes maybe you got to get a guy that's a little bit of a loose cannon. I'm like, are they going to be fishing in the same waters? Not that Keldrick Falk is a loose cannon, but, Are we going to fish in the same waters? Are we going to be hunting in the same woods as Kirby and Nick? A guy like Keldrick Falk measures up to it, man. 6'5", 255 defensive end out of Highland Home in Alabama. He's a Rivals 100 guy. Nice to see somebody that stature, like a 6'5", 255, grown blank man, as Jimbo used to say around here. What was your impression of him after he made his visit this weekend?
Yeah, I was surprised because he wasn't supposed to. I mean, Aslan, for those that don't know, if you don't follow our Sunday visit updates, what's wrong with you if you're not following it, because it's got everything in there. But he was not one that I was expecting, so he was kind of a surprise. He showed up like I want to say Sunday morning, and he stayed there for a little while. I think he was coming off a Florida visit. They convinced him to come over here, and he really wanted to see FSU. So, and the thing is, when he visited the first time, I was kind of like, okay, he seemed to like it some, but this time he seemed to leave a little more electricity or emotion with when he visited. I think he really connected with the staff, and I think he really feels relaxed when he's at FSU, where I think some other places are really putting recruiting pitches on you. I got the sense that probably happened at Florida, and when he goes to Alabama and Auburn, there's like these heavy recruiting pitches. But I think with FSU, it's a relaxing environment where it's like it's more personable and personal. So I think Keldrick's really feeling FSU. Said he's going to come back for the spring game, which is certainly a good sign when you get a kid on campus for three times. But I think if you told me last time he visited, I would have said, yeah, they're probably not getting that guy. But then when I talked to him today, I'm kind of like, you know what? I think this is a real possibility. Just the fact that he went out of his way to come back to FSU again today after just visiting him, I think that was an important note. So I think it went really well with Keldrick.
Anybody else should talk about from Sunday? Kayan Lee or Randy Pittman worth talking about? Or
yeah, I mean, Kayan Lee is a top defensive back. I think one of the best defensive backs in the South. He came into this visit, I think, with a strong Georgia lean. And then I think he came out of it and he told me, he's like, Mike, that I was really shocked how much I liked it. So I think it really kind of changed his perception of FSU. I think they're right up there now with Georgia. And that kind of tells you, that kind of is what I was going to get as, like, they're now competing, with the elite. Like, when you talk about recruiting with Georgia or against Georgia and against Clemson and against these teams that are consistently good, I think it says a lot about where your program's going. Because if you're not recruiting against the best, what are you doing? So I think it was a big deal having Kayan there, and I think FSU's now right up there with them. Now, another kid I like, even though he's 2024, and this kid's electric, is Zion Reagans. He also said FSU was in top 3. I love this kid. I think he's probably one of their top targets for that class. So we won't get too much in the 2024, but he's a guy to keep your eye on for the future. I think FSU is really high on him, and certainly it's mutual interest there. And then we covered the Rambeat Pittman. He's a 4-star tight end commitment to FSU. Other schools are still pushing, although I do think I'm not going to – I know after the Travis Hunter saga, I'm not going to convince nobody that a guy ain't flipping. But I would say, I get the body language is consistent where I feel like, it seems like they're in a good spot. But truthfully, you never know, honestly, until the end. But I think FSU's laid so much groundwork, and he's closer to home, so you don't have to worry about that type of stuff. And he seemed to come off as the guy that, hey, I'm going to go places, I'm going to go look at him, but I know there's a different feeling of when I'm at FSU. So that's kind of how I would kind of relay the Randy Pittman, how firm he is. I think he's fairly firm in that commitment. But yeah, that's just some of the guys. You can go to PRB, and there's plenty of other stuff on there. And then tomorrow I'm sure we're going to have a lot more on Shelton Sampson as he takes this much anticipated visit to FSU. I'm intrigued, guys, to hear what he has to say, because it's like, why are you coming to FSU? They were 5-7 last year. It's like, I'm intrigued. A 5-star that Georgia, Alabama, all these top teams want, and you're visiting FSU. So I'm intrigued what he has to say and what the reasons of why he decided to go on this visit, because it can't be just about, I have ties to Coach Yak. There has to be something that connects him there. So I'm interested to see what he has to say.
I think it's Gabe Fertitta. I think that's the guy that's also from Louisiana that's now on staff too. So that came to mind. I might be wrong, but it's something close to mine. And just circling back, Kane Lee's a 4-star cornerback, 5'11", 180, out of Cedar Grove in Ellenwood, Georgia. Randy Pittman, 4-star tight end, 6'2", 225, out of Mosley in Lynn Haven. The PRB is the premium recruiting board over on warchant.com. Everything you need to know is over there. Michael Austin got you totally covered, and as Michael said, he'll be back out there later today on Monday to catch up with Shelton Sampson, see how that visit went. So we'll let Michael get to that. Michael, Corey, and Aslan, that's all 3 of us that helped out today. We thank you for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.